You know, every single business on the planet, whether it's a tiny startup in a garage or a massive global company, hits a point where it needs cash to grow. But when we're talking about huge sums of money, lenders need a lot more than a simple handshake. They need real security. And that is exactly what we're going to demystify today.
So how does that actually work in the real world? When a company needs a massive loan to build a new factory or launch a product, what's stopping them from just taking the money and running? And how does a bank feel safe lending millions or even billions of dollars? Well, the answer isn't a handshake. It's a powerful legal tool that's really the bedrock of corporate finance.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the fundamental problem and the really elegant solution. Then, we're going to dive into the two main flavors of this solution, fixed versus floating charges. After that, we get into the nitty-gritty, the super important 30-day rule for making it all official. What happens if you mess that up? And finally, why this whole registration thing is just so critical.
Okay, let's jump right in. The answer to that big question, how businesses and lenders both get what they need, all comes down to one powerful little word: a charge.
So, what on earth is a charge? Well, the official definition calls it an interest or lien. But let's put that in plain English. It's basically a legal hook that a lender gets into a company's property. Think of it as the lender's ultimate safety net, making sure they can get their money back one way or another.
The best way to picture it is like this. A charge is the legal superglue that connects the loan to the company's assets. It's the lender putting a formal, legally binding dibs on a piece of property. They're basically saying, hey, if you don't pay me back, this is mine. And that right there, that's what gives them the confidence to write that big check in the first place.
Now this is where it gets interesting, because not all company assets are the same, are they? You've got solid things like buildings, and then you've got stuff that's always changing, like inventory. So it makes sense that the security has to work differently too. This brings us to the two main flavors of charges, fixed and floating.
So let's put these two head to head. A fixed charge is, well, it's fixed. It's bolted onto something specific and permanent, like the company's headquarters or a giant piece of machinery. The company can't just go and sell it without the lender's okay. A floating charge, though, is way more flexible. It's designed for assets that are always in flux. Think raw materials or the products in a warehouse. The company can keep buying and selling this stuff as usual, and the charge just kind of floats over whatever inventory they happen to have at any given moment.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine a company, Pearl Electronics. They need a loan. The bank says, sure, we'll use your office building as security. Boom. That's a textbook fixed charge. The asset is specific, it's not going anywhere, and Pearl Electronics can't just put a for sale sign out front until that loan is fully paid off.
Okay, but here's a really cool trick. That floating charge, it doesn't have to float forever. Under the right or maybe wrong circumstances, it can suddenly stop floating and lock into place. It can actually transform.
And this transformation has a name: crystallization. I love that term. Think of that floating charge as a net hovering over all the company's inventory. As long as the loan payments are being made, it just hovers. But the second the company defaults or goes into liquidation, bam, that net drops. It crystallizes, grabbing onto whatever specific assets are in the warehouse on that exact day, and it instantly becomes a fixed charge.
So it's great that we know what these charges are, but none of it means anything if it's not legally enforceable. It has to be official. And that brings us to the most important procedural step of all, registration.
Now, if there is one number I want you to burn into your brain from this, it's this one: 30. 30. From the moment a charge is created, the clock starts ticking. You have exactly 30 days to get it registered with the Registrar of Companies. This is not a suggestion. It's a hard, non-negotiable deadline. So, whose job is it to do this? Well, the primary responsibility is on the company that's borrowing the money. But, and this is a huge but, the lender isn't just going to sit on their hands and hope for the best. If the company is dragging its feet, the lender has the right to step in and register the charge themselves. It's their safety valve to protect their investment.
Okay, let's be realistic. Deadlines get missed. It happens all the time. So what happens if you blow past that 30-day window? Is it just game over? Well, no, not quite. The law does provide a way forward, but it is definitely going to cost you.
So here's how the timeline works. That first 30-day period is your golden window. You get it done, you pay the standard fee. Miss that, and you get another 30 days, but now you're paying additional fees. And if you're still late after 60 days, you get one last 60-day window. But this is where the penalties get really, really steep.
Now you have to pay what are called ad valorem fees.
Ad valorem. Sounds pretty fancy, right? It's just Latin for according to value. And this is so important. It means your penalty isn't some small, flat late fee. Oh no, it is a percentage of the entire loan amount. Just think about that for a second. On a multi-million-dollar loan, that penalty fee can become an incredibly expensive mistake.
All right, so we've covered the what, the when, and the how. Let's bring it all home by focusing on the why. Why do we go through all this trouble? Why is this registration process probably the most important piece of the entire puzzle?
Well, when you do everything correctly and file on time, you get a very important document back from the registrar, the Certificate of Registration. And let me tell you, this is way more than just a piece of paper to be filed away. This is your definitive legal proof.
And the law gives this certificate some serious power. It is conclusive evidence. Those two words are legal dynamite. It means what it says. The conclusion is already made. Once you're holding that certificate, the argument is over. Nobody can come back later and claim it wasn't done right. It provides total certainty.
But the biggest superpower you get from registration is a legal concept called constructive notice. Basically, by registering the charge, it's like you've put up a giant public billboard for the whole world to see. The law now presumes that anyone and everyone who might deal with that company, other banks, suppliers, you name it, knows about your claim. This is vital because it protects the lender's place in line. If other creditors show up later, they can't play dumb. The registered charge gets priority.
So you see, understanding corporate charges isn't just some dry academic exercise. It's about making sure the financial foundations of a business are rock solid and legally protected. It's what protects the lender, which in turn allows the company to get the funding it needs to innovate and grow. Which leads to one final question for you to think about. When you look at the financing in your world, is it truly secure?